Learning English, the podcast.
Hey, English learners! Welcome back to the Learning English podcast, your go-to English podcast for learning English in a simple way. I'm Carol.
And I'm Edu. How are you doing today, Carol?
Honestly, a little frustrated with myself. This morning, I woke up, and before I even got out of bed, I grabbed my phone and spent 20 minutes scrolling through social media. 20 minutes! I didn't even realize it until I was almost late for the bus.
I know that feeling. I do the same thing, but with me, it's checking work emails before I've even had my coffee. It's like my hand just reaches for the phone automatically.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about today. Bad habits. Those things we do without thinking, even when we know they're not good for us. And this is not just an English lesson, it's also a life lesson about how to break free from patterns that hold us back.
Yes, and at the end, we'll break down key vocabulary words. So stay until the end, because whether it's procrastination, unhealthy eating, or spending too much time on screens, we all have something we want to change.
So, let's begin. Edu, when did you first realize you had a bad habit you wanted to break?
That's a good question. I think it was about 6 months ago. I was working on an important project at work, a structural analysis that needed to be done by Friday. But every day, I would sit at my desk, open my laptop, and then suddenly I'd find myself watching YouTube videos about cars or reading random articles. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed and I hadn't done anything.
Procrastination.
Exactly. And the worst part was, I knew I was doing it. I could feel myself avoiding the work, but I couldn't stop. It's like there was this voice in my head saying, just 5 more minutes, just one more video. And then Friday came and I had to stay at the office until midnight to finish everything.
I've been there. For me, it was skipping breakfast. I know, everyone says breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but I would wake up, have my tea, rush to catch the bus, and tell myself I'd eat something at work. But then I'd get busy with emails and meetings, and suddenly it's lunchtime and I haven't eaten anything. By afternoon, I'd feel exhausted and irritable.
And then you'd probably eat too much at lunch to compensate.
Exactly. It became this cycle. Skip breakfast, feel terrible, overeat later, feel guilty, repeat. I did this for months before I realized it was actually affecting my work performance and my mood.
So what made you decide to change?
Honestly, it was a conversation with you. Remember that day we were working on the construction site inspection and I snapped at you about something small?
Oh, yes, I remember. You apologized later and said you hadn't eaten.
Right. And you said something that stuck with me. You said, Carol, this isn't just about food. This is about how you're treating yourself. And that hit me hard because you were right. Skipping meals wasn't just a bad habit. It was a form of self-sabotage.
I'm glad that helped. But I have to admit, I still struggle with my own habits. The procrastination is better, but it's not gone.
And that's normal. Breaking bad habits isn't like flipping a switch. It's more like training a muscle. You have to work at it consistently, and sometimes you'll fail, and that's okay.
Speaking of which, let's talk about why bad habits are so hard to break. Have you ever wondered why we keep doing things we know are bad for us?
All the time. And I actually read about this. There's a whole science behind habits. Our brains love patterns because patterns are efficient. When you do something repeatedly, your brain creates a neural pathway, like a shortcut. So the behavior becomes automatic.
Right. It's like driving. When you first learn to drive, you have to think about every single action. Check the mirror, press the clutch, shift gears. But after a while, you do it without thinking.
Exactly. And that's great for good habits like brushing your teeth or putting on your seatbelt. But it's terrible for bad habits because they become just as automatic.
So how do we break that pattern?
Well, there's this concept called the habit loop. It has 3 parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the trigger that starts the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is what your brain gets from doing it.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's use my phone scrolling habit. The cue is waking up, the routine is grabbing my phone and scrolling through social media, and the reward is that little hit of dopamine from seeing something interesting or funny.
Okay, I see. So for my procrastination, the cue might be sitting down at my desk and feeling overwhelmed by the work. The routine is avoiding the work by watching videos. And the reward is the temporary relief from that overwhelmed feeling.
Exactly. And here's the key. You can't just remove the routine. You have to replace it with something else that gives you the same reward.
So instead of watching videos when I feel overwhelmed, I could do something else?
Right. Like taking a 5-minute walk, or breaking the big task into smaller steps, or even just taking 3 deep breaths. The point is to interrupt the automatic pattern and give your brain a different way to get that reward.
That makes sense, but it sounds hard.
It is hard, especially at first, because your brain is going to resist. It's going to say, no, we've always done it this way. Why are you changing things? And that's where willpower comes in.
Ah, willpower. I feel like I don't have enough of that.
Most people feel that way, but here's something interesting. Willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired if you use it too much, but it also gets stronger with practice.
So what do we do when our willpower runs out?
That's where environment design comes in. Instead of relying only on willpower, you change your environment to make the bad habit harder to do and the good habit easier.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. When I was trying to stop skipping breakfast, I started preparing overnight oats the night before. So in the morning, I didn't have to think about what to eat or spend time cooking. I just grabbed the jar from the fridge and ate while I got ready. I removed the friction.
That's smart. For me, I started putting my phone in another room when I need to focus on work. Because if it's right there on my desk, I'll pick it up without thinking. But if I have to get up and walk to another room, that extra effort gives me a moment to ask myself, do I really need to check this right now?
Exactly. You're making the bad habit inconvenient. And that little bit of inconvenience is often enough to break the automatic pattern.
But what about when you slip up? Because I've tried to break habits before, and I'll do well for a few days, and then I'll mess up once, and then I just give up completely.
Oh, that's so common. It's called the what the hell effect. You break your streak, and your brain says, well, I already messed up, so I might as well keep going.
Yes, that's exactly what happens to me.
The key is to treat slip-ups as data, not as failure. If you procrastinate one day, don't say, I'm terrible at this, I'll never change. Instead say, okay, what triggered that? What was different about today? What can I learn from this?
So it's about being curious instead of being critical.
Exactly. And also about self-compassion. In our culture, especially in Arab culture, there's often this expectation of perfection. If you make a mistake, you're supposed to feel ashamed and punish yourself. But research shows that self-compassion is actually more effective for behavior change than self-criticism.
That's hard for me. I'm very hard on myself when I fail.
I know, me too. But think about it this way. If your best friend came to you and said, I tried to break a bad habit and I messed up, what would you say to them?
I'd say, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Just try again tomorrow.
Exactly. So why don't we talk to ourselves that way?
That's a good point. I never thought about it like that.
Another thing that helps is focusing on identity instead of just behavior. Instead of saying, I want to stop procrastinating, say, I am someone who does important work first.
What's the difference?
When you focus on behavior, you're fighting against yourself. But when you focus on identity, you're becoming someone new. Every time you do the new behavior, you're casting a vote for that new identity.
So if I sit down and work on my project instead of watching videos, I'm voting for the identity of someone who is productive and focused.
Exactly. And over time, those votes add up. You start to see yourself differently. And when you see yourself differently, the behavior becomes easier because it's just who you are.
That's not bad. I like that. It feels more empowering than just trying to force myself to stop doing something.
Right. And it also helps to have accountability. Tell someone about the habit you're trying to break. Ask them to check in with you.
Like how you told me about your breakfast habit.
Exactly. And you helped me stay accountable. There were mornings when I didn't feel like preparing my overnight oats, but I knew you'd ask me about it, so I did it anyway.
And now it's just part of your routine.
Yes! It took about 3 weeks, but now I don't even think about it. I just do it automatically. The new habit replaced the old one.
3 weeks. Is that how long it takes to form a habit?
People often say 21 days, but research shows it's actually more like 66 days on average. But it varies depending on the habit and the person. The point is, it takes time. You have to be patient with yourself.
What about going cold turkey? Just stopping completely all at once?
That works for some people and some habits. Like if you're trying to quit smoking, cold turkey might be the best approach. But for other habits, gradual change is more sustainable. Like if you're trying to reduce social media use, maybe start by deleting one app or setting a time limit, rather than trying to quit all social media at once.
That makes sense. Start small.
Exactly. There's this concept called the 2-minute rule. If you want to build a new habit, make it so easy that it takes less than 2 minutes to do. Want to start exercising? Just put on your workout clothes. Want to read more? Just read 1 page. The point is to make it so easy that you can't say no.
And then once you've started, it's easier to keep going.
Right. The hardest part is starting. Once you're in motion, momentum takes over.
Speaking of momentum, what do you do when life gets chaotic? Like during Ramadan or when there's a big deadline at work and your whole routine gets disrupted?
That's tough. I think the key is to have a minimum viable version of your habit. Like during Ramadan, my whole eating schedule changes, so I can't do my overnight oats routine. But I make sure I still eat something before I start my day, even if it's just dates and water. I keep the core principle, even if the specific behavior changes.
That's flexible. I like that.
You have to be flexible. Life happens. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. And sometimes progress means just maintaining, not moving backward.
What about replacing one bad habit with another? Like, I've heard of people who quit smoking but then start eating too much.
That's a real risk, because you're not addressing the underlying need. If you smoke because you're stressed and you quit smoking but don't find another way to manage stress, you'll probably find a different unhealthy coping mechanism.
So you have to deal with the root cause.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what is this habit really giving me? Is it comfort, distraction, a sense of control? And then find a healthier way to meet that need.
This is deep. We're not just talking about habits. We're talking about understanding ourselves.
That's the real work. Breaking bad habits is ultimately about self-awareness and self-compassion. It's about paying attention to your patterns, understanding why they exist, and gently guiding yourself toward better choices.
And remembering that you're human. You're gonna mess up sometimes.
Exactly. The difference between someone who successfully breaks a bad habit and someone who doesn't isn't that one person never fails. It's that one person gets back up after failing.
That was what I needed to hear today.
Me too. Even though I've made progress with my breakfast habit, I still have other things I'm working on. Like, I still check my phone too much in the evenings when I should be winding down for bed.
What are you doing about that?
I'm trying to replace it. Instead of scrolling before bed, I'm trying to read a physical book. I put my phone in the other room and keep a book on my nightstand. Some nights I succeed, some nights I don't. But I'm getting better.
That's all we can do. Keep trying, keep learning, keep growing.
Exactly. And celebrate the small wins. Every time you choose the better behavior, that's a victory. Don't wait until you've completely eliminated the bad habit to feel proud of yourself. Be proud of every single choice.
I like that. Celebrate the process, not just the outcome.
Yes, because the process is where you actually live. The outcome is just a moment, but the process is every day, every choice, every small decision.
Okay, so let's summarize. To break a bad habit, you need to understand the habit loop, replace the routine with something healthier, design your environment to support the change, be compassionate with yourself when you slip up, focus on identity, not just behavior, have accountability, start small, and celebrate progress.
That's a great summary. And remember, it takes time. Be patient with yourself.
All right, Carol, we used some really interesting words today. Let's break down the key vocabulary for our listeners.
Yes, let's do it. Let's start with trigger. A trigger is something that causes a reaction or starts a behavior. For example, feeling stressed might be a trigger for eating junk food.
Next, we have cue.
A cue is similar to a trigger. It's a signal that tells your brain to start a habit. For example, sitting on the couch might be a cue to turn on the TV.
Then there's craving. A craving is a strong desire for something. When you have a bad habit, your brain starts to crave the reward. For example, if you always have coffee with a cigarette, your brain will crave the cigarette when you drink coffee.
Another important word is relapse. A relapse is when you go back to a bad habit after you stopped it. For example, if you quit smoking for a month and then have a cigarette, that's a relapse. It's not a complete failure, just a small mistake.
We also talked about accountability. Accountability means being responsible for your actions and answering to someone. For example, if you tell your friend about your goal and they check in with you, that's accountability.
Next, we have willpower. Willpower is the ability to control your impulses and stick to your decisions. For example, it takes willpower to say no to dessert when you're trying to eat healthier.
Next is momentum. Momentum is the force that keeps something moving forward. In habits, momentum means that once you start making progress, it gets easier to keep going. For example, after exercising for a week, you have momentum to continue.
We also mentioned self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is when you do things that work against your own goals. For example, if you want to wake up early, but you stay up late watching TV, that's self-sabotage.
Another phrase is cold turkey. Going cold turkey means stopping a habit completely and suddenly, without gradually reducing it. For example, some people quit smoking cold turkey instead of slowly cutting down.
And finally, we have slip-up. A slip-up is a small mistake or failure. For example, if you're trying to avoid sugar and you eat one cookie, that's a slip-up. It's not a complete failure, just a small mistake.
So those were our key words for today: trigger, cue, craving, relapse, accountability, willpower, momentum, self-sabotage, cold turkey, and slip-up.
Try using them in your own sentences. Practice makes perfect.
Absolutely. And remember, learning English is also about building good habits. Every day you listen to this podcast, every day you practice, you're building momentum.
That's right. You're becoming someone who speaks English, not just someone who is trying to learn English.
I love that. Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. We hope this episode helped you think about your own habits and gave you some tools to make positive changes.
Remember, breaking bad habits isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about choosing progress over perfection.
We'll see you next time on the Learning English podcast. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep choosing better.
Your progress doesn't end here. Click on the next video or explore the additional videos we've selected for you.
See you soon.
Bye!